Okay. Alan Selling. When I call your name, respond by saying "I" or "hello," whatever you prefer.
I'm here.
Diane Glass. I believe she said she was going to be absent, but did provide us with comments. Everett Skinner. Jeffrey Plant.
Here. Hello.
Hi. Jeffrey Spratt.
Also here.
Jerry McGovern.
I'm here.
Lawrence Johnson. Absent. George Labonte.
Here.
Louis Lovato. Absent. Selena Zabrowski. These are obviously not in alphabetical order. Sorry, guys. Stephanie Duquette.
Here.
Steve Schwarm.
Here.
Ella Weiss.
Here.
Ralph Wilmer.
Here.
Rachel Benson. Here. Okay.
Okay, good.
Did we account for Mr. Jerry McGovern? I think that maybe that roll call had the other name of Lawrence.
Nope, it was Jerry McGovern and Lawrence Johnson.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Missed that.
Okay.
Okay, I'll turn it over to Ella then.
Yeah, Ella.
Okay, great. Well, thanks everyone for joining. It's been a little while and I've sent a lot of resources by email, so I'm happy to see everyone and have the chance to discuss some exciting new materials. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can everyone see that? Give me a thumbs up. Okay. Great, so this is steering committee meeting number 4. And this is the notice that this is being recorded, but we've talked about that at length already. So the agenda today is we're going to go over the initial survey findings, which hopefully you've all had a chance to review, but we'll talk through each of the key points. Based on those survey findings, Rachel and I have worked on a draft vision statement that we're happy to present to you, and hopefully you've had the time to review that too, and we can talk about it and workshop it a bit so that it's ready to present to the public at the public forum in 2 weeks, September 28th, and we'll do some preparation for that public forum. So the survey findings. Thanks to Rachel, who really worked hard to distribute the survey, and many of you who also pitched in. There were more than 1,200 respondents, and this was as of like a week ago, so there are probably more already. The following charts that I'll show are based on the first about 1,000 responses and will hopefully be updated before the forum. I have to get the actual number of how many people fully filled out the survey. I think it was closer to 800 of full responses, but I can double check that. But this is really great response rate for a project like this. So as a reminder, there was a press release to local media, a postcard to every household, hard copies at town hall, outreach to particular groups like the schools and small businesses, emails to staff and boards and on social media. So thank you again to everyone who helped distribute the survey. So we have a good quantity of survey responses, but it's also important to look at the quality of the responses and who actually took the survey. So we did take some demographic data of the survey participants. So this shows that the survey participants represent folks who've lived in town for a long time. So, more than half have lived in Wrentham for more than 10 years. So that's just good thing to remember as we're reviewing the survey findings of whose opinions and experiences does this survey really represent. Similarly, this chart compares the survey respondents in blue to the actual Wrentham population in green of folks who rent their home or own their home. So as you can see here, the survey underrepresents renters. So actually 17% of the population rents and only 2% of the survey participants rent. Similarly, this is income, and blue is survey, green is the actual population. So you can see that, for example, folks making under $50,000, we got few households who make under $50,000 to take the survey, although there's a substantial portion of the population that earns that much. So the survey findings substantially underrepresent lower income households. And then when you get to the right of the chart, it starts to match up a bit, but the blue line is still taller, meaning the survey slightly overrepresents higher income households. So again, this is important to keep in mind as we continue our outreach strategies and as we review and make sense of the survey findings. And then in terms of race, the survey overrepresents, the survey, let's see, I had said the survey overrepresents white residents, but actually that's not true. I think it's hard to really take, to consider how the survey participants reflect the race of the town because so many people chose to prefer not to answer. So it's hard to really make that comparison. So with that understanding of who took the survey, let's look at some of the findings. So as you may recall, one of the questions was, which set of words best describe your aspirations for Wrentham? And so I've listed all of the responses here and then tried to highlight with the bracket those that were most popular. So those are community-oriented, welcoming, walkable, charming, fiscally responsible, and rural. And you know, where you cut off what's most popular is just discretionary. And so we could say healthy is also included, or, you know, community-oriented really seemed to be the leader. So we could focus on that as the most popular aspiration, but you get the sense of what rises to the top. Then there was a question on what are the greatest strengths. Again, this was multiple choice. So good for families, schools, and education are obvious winners, as well as sense of community, open space and farmland, natural resources, and parks and trails. I'll note here and in a future slide that things like affordable cost of living didn't score as high as I might have thought or others might have thought. But again, it's important to remember who took the survey compared to the population of the town. So lower income households are underrepresented by this survey. So although that's not a great strength here, or it's not highlighted, that might be because of the demographics of who took the survey. Most meaningful place. Again, this was a multiple choice, but downtown and town common conservation areas were really popular, as well as the schools and people's individual neighborhoods and the lakes. The improvements that are most important include more walkable and bikeable throughout town, protect more open space from development, more shops and services downtown, and more trails and parks. So one thing I wanted to note here is that the more walkable and bikeable throughout town obviously scored really high. And there was an option for more walkable and bikeable downtown, which scored less high. So, oops. It's just interesting to note the difference in opinion about that, that people really want it to be easier to walk and bike everywhere, not just in the downtown. And then you compare that to The third most popular, which is more shops and services downtown, scored really high, whereas there was another choice further down, more shops and services throughout town here. And there's a disparity between the popularity of those responses. So a takeaway is kind of the survey respondents want it to be easier to walk and bike everywhere in the town, but they really want to focus shops and services downtown rather than everywhere. What is your vision for the future of Wrentham was another question. And this was an open-ended question, and I've provided you an attachment to an email, and I can provide that again if you can't find it, all of the open-ended responses. There's a lot to look through, and it's important to do so. So we tried to categorize the themes of those open-ended questions. And what we found is consistent with the results of the multiple choice questions. So improving downtown, encouraging more small businesses is really a theme of the open-ended question about vision, as well as open space, sidewalks, and bike lanes are popular themes of folks' vision for the future. And then here was, again, there's hundreds of responses of what's your vision for Wrentham, and we just took a couple to add to the slide, but as you review the full results, feel free to pull out and note other responses that you like to this open-ended question. I'll read one here in the upper right-hand corner. I grew up here. After living out west for 10 years, I decided to come back and raise my family here. Our biggest challenge as a young family was finding housing we could afford. In the lower right-hand corner, make the town services easier to navigate for new residents. It's hard to know where to go to get involved with the community. Create more activities and businesses downtown. So again, this is just a snapshot of the 100 of responses that we got. Then there was a question that referred back to the existing 2004 vision and what's missing from it. Like, should we change anything or is it good? And as you can see, one of the potential responses in the multiple choice was nothing. I like the 2004 vision as it is, and that scored really low. So we do need to update what we have on the books. And folks noted that it was missing mention of well-maintained public infrastructure and that focus on the downtown and making it walkable with a variety of shops and services. Finally, there is a question, again, that harkened back to the 2004 vision statement about where to direct new growth. And the multiple choice options were based on where the 2004 plan channeled growth. And the most popular place, again, is downtown, where it's been recently rezoned on that vacant land behind South Street, as well as along the Route 1 corridor. And then there was some support for near the premium outlets as well. So before digging into the draft vision statement, maybe we'll just stop and see if there's any quick questions or comments about those survey results.
Have you considered weighting the responses from the lower income people higher in some way to compensate for their underrepresentation?
That's an interesting idea. I hadn't considered that. I think it'd be really hard to know. Oh, I guess we could like prorate it based on
Percentages.
The population, but it's not a random survey. So to use that as a sampling that could then be generalized, I think wouldn't necessarily be accurate. But we could focus on the respondents who are low income and what their priorities were. I think that could be a really useful exercise.
Yeah, that's something, I just think we might want to consider doing something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that may be a good way to go. But I also noted, if I remember correctly, that almost a quarter of the people did not answer that question either. So it's a little hard
Yeah.
to tell where we stand.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like the approach of at least trying to note what some of the desires were from the renters, from the lower income folks, just so that we can make sure that we are still hopefully trying to address those needs. Maybe rather than waiting them, at least know what those needs and desires were.
Good idea.
Ella, can I ask you a question? Is there anything that you saw in the responses so far that are surprising? Does this seem to be what you're expecting, or anything that really jumped out at you based on your experience?
That's a good question. Thanks. I guess I was, as I noted, kind of surprised about the lack of focus on housing costs. I just feel like that's such an issue throughout the region, that would rise to the top. But other than that, I didn't notice anything surprising. I mean, the other thing that I should really note, and that we should all remember, is that we are living in a pandemic. And so this survey, it seemed like people didn't mention COVID very much in the open-ended responses, and we tried to acknowledge that this is a trying time for everyone. And I don't know how that would have skewed the results here, but it's important context to just remember.
If I can ask one other question, Ella, where we saw that we've got a disproportionate share of folks that rent in town that haven't responded, do we need to make some other efforts to try to reach those folks who haven't, just so we can try to get those levels, that are matched? I know we still have, what, a month or a few weeks left. Is it the 1st of October it closes?
1st of October, so I think it's a little tight, but we could. I think also, I mean, we're going to be focusing on housing and economic development. So as we continue the project over the next several months, I think it would be really important to reach out to renters. And we have scoped focus groups and or stakeholder interviews. So I think that we could be really strategic in that outreach component. But I'll note that, yeah. Okay, with that, I'll move on to the draft vision statement. So I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, so as a reminder, the purpose of the vision statement is to articulate a shared purpose, some values and intentions. It should be inspiring, and as shown in this graphic, it guides everything. So all of our future work, if we do it well, will be tied to the vision statement, all of the goals, strategies, and actions. So based on the survey results, this is what we've come up with. So I wonder if someone wants to read it aloud. Rachel, do you want to read aloud the vision statement up on the screen, just so everyone hears it?
Oh, let me move your faces somewhere else. Wrentham is a charming, community-oriented town. It is proud of its downtown and open spaces, which provide a strong sense of place. It strikes the perfect balance. The landscape is both rural and walkable. The community is rooted in history and also welcoming. And the government is fiscally responsible and maintains high-quality infrastructure and services. It seeks to protect more open space and farmland with effective regulation, become more walkable and bikeable with sidewalks and trails, strengthen the downtown with more local shops, small businesses, homes, and places to gather, leverage its strength of being a good place to raise a family with strong schools and a sense of community, attract new businesses and development that contribute to the character of town, encourage diversity by providing housing options affordable to young adults, families, households with lower income, and seniors.
Thanks. So I'd love to get feedback on this, and here's some questions, and then I'll flip back to the vision statement. But is the general format right and the specificity at the right level? Should it be much shorter, or could it be expanded on? Is anything missing? And what do you recommend changing? Where is it a little off?
Ella, are you looking for some comments?
Yeah, go
Okay,
ahead.
if I can, couple things.
Who's speaking too? Sorry.
I'm sorry, this is Jeff Plant.
Okay, great.
Yeah, one of the comments I had is somewhere in those first two short paragraphs, I'd like to try to get we or our in there. It's talking third person, and it might be nice to try to get somewhere, you know, we are proud of our downtown, or somewhere to get a little bit more personal and less third person.
Like that. Mm-hmm.
And then the other, and I noticed that, you know, you kind of hit on all of the items, so good job on putting this together based on the survey results. You kind of hit all of the things that, you know, seemed important, so good job on that. The last comment I was going to make is, can we kind of have an end statement in there, something about encouraging residents to be actively engaged and encouraged to participate in everything that Wrentham has to offer? Just some sort of closing comment on that.
Mm-hmm.
And your last statement there sort of tries to do that a little bit, but I think it needs more, like Jeff just said.
Yeah, I like that.
Thank you.
Anything that anyone's uncomfortable with?
I mean, these aren't things that you can criticize. If you look at, I mean, who wouldn't support this list?
You'd be surprised. I have a colleague who went through like 8 versions, but we don't need to do that.
No, I mean, you might add some on here. That's all I could see, but there's nothing here that's, at least in my mind, it's controversial.
The only thing, comment I would have is that in what I saw, people don't think that the town is walkable enough, and yet in our statement, we say it's both rural and walkable.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of question that, either the data or the statement. You can't have it both ways. The people that live in town can't think that it needs to be more walkable, and us as the committee saying that it's walkable. Something's not jiving there. Quite frankly, I think, I don't know how you'd make the downtown any more walkable than it is. There's good sidewalks on both sides of all of the streets, but it doesn't drive with the data that you showed us earlier.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that sentence was supposed to be aspirational, but it doesn't read that way at all. It just says it does already do these things. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Do we need to add something along lines of our goal is, and that kind of helps to set the stage?
I think we did that, and if you down in it seeks to, because the same statement is right there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think Bill's point is good as far as when we start talking about at the beginning, striking the perfect balance, rural and walkable. I think his point is good, that we probably need to kind of get that it seeks to, or the goal is, early on, so people know this is our vision for 2030. Bill, I think that's kind of what you're referring to, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is Jerry McGovern. Maybe a way of doing that. To Billy's points, both of those first 2 statements are more current than written as current than an aspirational. I'm thinking if you had the first sentence remain kind of the way it is, but then they use the second one to lead into that aspiration and tie it to the fact that we're shooting for 2030. So our vision for the next 10 years is to strike a more perfect balance by doing, adding, maintaining, that kind of thing.
Yeah, okay, so combine, right, keep the first sentence the same but combine the second paragraph and the list as kind of the aspirations.
And to specifically point to 2030, the next 10 years.
Right, okay.
Yeah, that probably does it.
And then what that would mean is if we're moving towards a stronger emphasis on affordability of living here and those kind of things, that very last bullet under it seeks to probably needs to be higher. Or stand alone in some way.
Could you expand on that?
I see what you're saying. You're treating those bullets as sort of in order of importance.
Well, it's going to read that way to most people, I think.
Oh, definitely it will. I see what you're, yeah.
So move up that last bullet.
I wonder if we have to format it differently. Because if you put it like a list, people, it's right. People will say, well, the first one must be the most important one.
If that's the case, though, to Ella's point, affordability was relatively low on that prioritization list. And again, I understand that that may be a result of the respondents, but you could follow, like right now I'm looking at the most popular aspirations of Wrentham, like you could follow that sort of pecking order. But again, if we did that, then affordability actually would be lower on that list. But I also agree that that's the way people are going to read it, is number one is the first one that came to mind when we were creating this, so that must be the most important.
Unless we put a statement at the top there that says all of these are, you know, equally important goals.
And do we also want to kind of somehow build into this that this was based on feedback from the community on what the community is looking for?
Yeah, we can do that. And also this can be revisited, you know, so this has been based on one survey, but as we dig into more of the policies, we don't want to change this. We don't want to like totally reopen this, but it can be subtly iterative as we gain more public feedback. But I think we can definitely include language that it's based on public feedback. And I think that we can, and this won't really fix just that we in English read from top to bottom, but we could say that these are equally important goals.
I do think that we're going to have a little bit of a challenge in this first phase of this project, in that we've got a couple of things at odds here. And I think for Wrentham to maintain its open space in the farmland and to have things bikeable and continue this rural character, all kind of stuff, is going to be a little bit of odds with trying to add affordable housing and those kind of things. They don't exactly mesh together. There's going to be given and taken in order to maintain that. There's a balance there, but I think finding that balance is going to be the real key to a plan.
Barry, that's probably a good word to play on here is, you know, seeking to balance. I mean, that's an excellent point. That, you know, there's going to be 3 or 4 or 5 top things, but, you know, we need to focus on a few, but try to get a good balance. So that
so I think the word balance definitely needs to be in there.
Yeah.
And you could, so if you wanted to, just an idea that I'm thinking at the top of my head here is if we have these 1, 2, 3, 4, these first 5 bullets, and those we seek to do all those things, and then there's a break, and the break says, while balancing the need to improve options, affordability, those kind of things.
Mm-hmm. I'm hesitant to, I think there's some specific cases, you know, what to do with a certain parcel. Do we conserve it for open space or do we build affordable housing on it? There are certain times when those two goals are at odds. But I think the vast majority of time, they don't need to be at odds. And so I'm hesitant, although of course this is your vision, but I'm hesitant to create that conflict from the get-go, because I think that, you know, affluent, like large lot subdivisions that sell for $1 million are just as at odds with open space as affordable housing is. So I wouldn't want to contribute to, and maybe conjure up a conflict that isn't really there.
But affordable housing, for the most part, entails more density in housing.
Right, and I think more dense housing actually reduces the loss of farmland. I think low density housing is what's at odds with conservation and farmland.
So that's where that balancing act comes in.
Mm-hmm. Any other comments? So what I have here is add some first person we statements, add an end statement, some last line about encouraging more engagement. Somehow make clear that it isn't yet walkable enough, that that's an aspiration. And so combine the second statement with the bullets, specifically point out that this is for the next 10 years, include language that it's based on public feedback and that these goals are equally important. Make sure to really keep that language about balancing these different goals. That's what I have so far. Am I missing anything? Jerry, does that address your concerns?
Wasn't so much concern, just but yes, you got. I think you captured it all from where I was sitting.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so I'll make those changes and send you all a draft before we present it to the public at the public forum on September 28th for their feedback as well.
That's great.
Great. Okay, then so moving on to that public forum. And please send me any other comments, or, you know, it can be red line and track changes as well if you think of anything after tonight. So preparation for public forum. I've got some more slides. Okay, so the number one thing to do is to register. I don't think everyone has registered yet. So it's in 2 weeks, Monday, September 28th, from 7 to 8:30, and you can go to this link and register, and that's how you'll get the Zoom link. So I'm a little surprised. We've only had like 38 registrants so far, and with our overwhelming success with the survey, I feel like we could get a lot more people to come. So Rachel and I will continue to work on promoting the event, and would love your help with that as well.
And Ella, that might be a good chance to give everybody one last chance to say, do the survey too.
Yep, absolutely.
You know, I just got a voice message from the town talking about the senior center vaccination being postponed. Maybe we should consider doing something like that. Like 2 days before, like the Friday before the 28th, is to send out a voice message in particular to people that have it. I guess we don't really know who has or who has not responded to the survey, but it would be possibly a good idea just to do something like that to get more participation.
Yeah, I don't know how feasible that is, but maybe we can do that, Rachel?
Yes, Stephanie and I were just talking this morning about the timing of the town is Definitely utilizing the Nixle system, especially during this time. But we also don't, so we don't want to also overload people with information. Of course, I want all of my things to be top priority, but you know, there's a couple other people ahead of me. But so the Friday before, we can look to see who else has a announcement going out. So we're not overstepping and kicking anybody out. But yeah, that's a good idea. And is that
How
the
about-
Nixle, Steve?
Well, excuse me?
Is that the Nixle that you get that from?
I think so, yeah. But one of the things that we need to do is make it very clear that this is going to be an online one as well, because I think one of the things that right now, that the way I've seen it, it looks like it's going to be in person, and we need to say right up front that it's online, much more so that it's.
Okay.
So could we maybe do in the next few days or whatever, a reminder for the survey, and we can sneak like a little announcement about register for the public forum, which is a Zoom meeting, and then do the one the Friday before also.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And we'll be like more than 200 people responded to the survey and gave us their email addresses. So we'll certainly follow up with them because they've already demonstrated enough interest to take the survey so that they're more likely to actually come to the forum.
And I think it would be really interesting, Ella, if it's not a big deal to maybe pick out the top 3 of the bottom income level houses or something like that. See if there's anything significantly different.
Yeah, I'll definitely do that.
Yes. What?
And are we still posting like the survey and the upcoming forum on like the electronic town board out from the town hall?
Yeah, that's another good thing to do. Yeah.
Yes.
And how about a banner on the website or a little thing on the main page on the town website there?
It's a good idea. Yeah, we've kind of thought that everything we did for the survey, we would try to repeat for the forum. So we'll also do a press release.
Yeah, good.
Okay, but the fun doesn't stop there. So here's the agenda. It's pretty jam-packed, but we're gonna, because we haven't had a like full public event yet, do a short background on master plans, present the initial survey results, exactly what I presented today, plus the analysis of responses from lower income households and or renters. I'll look at that data. The draft vision statement, so what I presented today, but updated based on your feedback. And then we'll have some kind of interaction. We'll probably use something called Poll Everywhere, which is like a little pop-up that does a nice little quiz, not quiz, that's the wrong word, collects responses and allows people to give their responses. And it's usually a multiple choice. So it's an easy way to make it more interactive. And you can see the results from that polling live. So it's really fun to see like, oh, my neighbors are loving this vision statement. I don't really like it, but that's good to know. So there's like more of a feeling of being in the room with folks. And then to have actual vocal engagement, we are planning to dive in more to the key issues and opportunities. So I'll present some existing conditions data, what I've presented to you all, but even more streamlined, and then have a discussion. So it's really similar to what we do for master plan public forums, not under COVID. And this is where you all come in this discussion of breakout rooms. So we're hoping that we'll have about 20 minutes for these small group discussions. And because we're hoping that a lot of folks will come, we'll need you all to help. So MAPC staff, there will be a handful of us to facilitate some of the breakout rooms, but if we get a lot of people, which we're hoping to do, I think maybe 100, we'll need some more volunteers. And so what we were thinking is that we could have one steering committee member facilitate the discussion and one steering committee member take notes so that you would all be working in pairs. And I don't know how many of you have done a Zoom breakout room. Has anyone?
Just chat, that's it. Okay.
We've got some experience here though. By the end of this meeting, you will all have done a Zoom breakout room. So we're gonna practice now. And then there's a dress rehearsal on Friday, September 25th. And no matter whether you're a note taker or a facilitator, we'd like you to attend one of the quote unquote dress rehearsals so that we can really walk through what this public forum will feel like. So I will send you calendar holds and an email with 2 options of when to join this practice session on Friday, September 25th. And we'll also send you facilitation tips. So we're gonna practice. I didn't tell you this, Rachel and Stephanie, but I'm hoping that you can demonstrate good facilitation techniques in small breakout rooms. So here's some tips. Basically, it's the same as an in-person small group. So you're trying to get everyone to participate. That's all the same. Then there's a few extra tips specific to Zoom. So it's great when people turn on their videos because then you feel like you're actually talking to someone. You can remind people that there's the chat option, but also I think it's fine to just kind of discourage them from using that because it can complicate things. You can remind folks to mute themselves if there's a lot of background noise and to specifically check in with anyone who's calling in by phone because they can kind of be lost in the mix sometimes. So these are all things that we've done on these calls together. So now I'm going to put you, I'm going to add some pressure here. And I'm going to break everyone into breakout rooms to practice what will happen at the public forum. So Rachel's going to be the facilitator for one breakout room. And Stephanie will be the other. Actually, Stephanie, I should probably actually check with you. Are you able to do this? Are you at a desk? If not, that's fine. I can
I'm using my phone. I'm sitting in a car.
Okay, great. Ralph, would you mind being a facilitator of a breakout room?
I could do that. So just leading this discussion here.
Yeah, so I'm going to send you into breakout rooms. So you don't have to do anything technological about that. So I'll send you into breakout rooms and then you'll lead a discussion on what was your favorite thing you did this summer. And we'll do it for like, just a couple minutes because it's small and this is just a practice. And you'll get the sense of what it feels like to go to a breakout room. And I'll send you a message to remind you of this question, as well as a message to remind you of how many minutes we have left. So if anything goes awry, that's totally fine. That's the point. This is just practice for the public forum.
And then just so that you know, once the breakout room is over, back to this meeting among all of us, so we'll all come back together.
I do have one question. If this is going to be recorded, how do we get all of the breakout rooms recorded?
That's a great question. The facilitator can record. So I can't control that. The facilitator has to do that. So that would be a great thing to practice, actually. Okay. So, yeah.
Are we going to worry about that now for this little thing, or?
You could, because if we run into problems, I think the other thing is we could just not record it and just because there will be a note taker there as well. But in terms of broadcasting it, like for Cable 8, what we usually do is just have a slide up that says people are currently in breakout rooms. And if we were in person, you couldn't go to every small group discussion anyways. So it's okay. But I think for now you can try to record it. This is just an experiment. Okay. So what happens is it takes just a couple seconds for me to assign everyone to breakout rooms. So that's what I'll do right now. Okay, so I'm going to open the rooms and you'll see an invitation to join the breakout room. You should go ahead and do that. And then I'll send you a message with this question. But Rachel and Ralph can lead the way, and you can always quit the breakout room and come back into this room where I'll be. I'll stay here. Okay? See you all soon. I'll like send everyone back in a few minutes so that we end this meeting at 5. Okay. Okay, everyone's still alive. How'd it go?
Went super good.
Good. All right, so who wants to facilitate on September 28th?
Ella, I'll be the first volunteer.
All right, thank you, Jerry.
I'm happy to
Another
facilitate,
voice?
Ella.
Okay, can you name your
Sorry, Jeff Spratt.
Jeff Spratt,
Steve Schwarm.
Steve Schwarm.
All right, I'll do either.
Joe Skinner.
That was Alan. I said I'll do either. You know, I'll facilitate or record, whatever. Doesn't matter.
Okay, great.
I can help too with note taking if you want.
Okay. And I'm just realizing the folks who aren't on this call we should assign to note taking since they haven't gotten the practice. So Everett, what are you interested in? Note taking or facilitating?
You need one more facilitator, is that what you said?
If you're able to facilitate, we'd love the help. And if we don't need you.
I don't have a problem with that. I am not a good recorder.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for your willingness to experiment with this and to facilitate. So the actual questions will be not about the summer, but about the, what, is that a problem?
This was an easy question.
So it'll be about one, based on the existing conditions, so based on like the analyses we'll present, is there anything you want to add to the vision statement or things you want to add that you feel like the survey didn't really capture? And then we'll dig more into housing and economic development. So still pretty high level, just asking about what are the strengths and challenges in regards to housing and economic development. Well, those discussion questions will be very clear. Okay, so that's all. So the main takeaways are: one, register for the public forum if you haven't already, and send me an email if you have trouble with that. Two, I'll send an email about these 2 dress rehearsals on Friday, September 25th. Please sign up for one of them so that everyone has one chance to really walk through this public forum so it goes as smoothly as possible. And 3, spread the word about the public forum. So if you help spread the word about the survey, please help spread the word about the public forum as well.
Well, I see it. Oh, okay.
And you're going to be,
So here's my to-do.
Ella, you're going to be sending the updated vision statement too, right? For us to get back to you on?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll try to do that so you have enough time really to review. Okay, any final questions or comments?
How many responses do we have as of today?
I haven't checked today. And it'll take me a minute to do that, but I can email it to you.
Okay. I know we were up to like 1,200, almost 1,300. I just wondered if we were at more than that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we haven't done any promotion really in the past few days, so I wouldn't imagine it's changed much. I think as we promote the forum, maybe we'll get a few responses to the survey for folks who didn't do that.
Yeah,
yeah, I would expect that we start to plateau.
I didn't get my cardboard mailer until just a couple of days ago, so I just wondered if we got some more from that.
That's good to know.
I had already responded, but you know, people that aren't aware of it may have only just seen it within the last week.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you all so much for your time and your participation and volunteering. We'll be in touch. See you on September 25th, Friday, September 25th for the dress rehearsal.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care all.
Good night.
Thank you.